Hello, this is Jen T. Grace. I'm the founder of Publish Your Purpose and the founder of the Institute for Author Growth and Impact. And I am here for day 2 of our 11-part series on how to use AI to get your book written. So today we're going to talk about the AI prompt that tells you exactly who your book is for. So we started off yesterday talking about a purpose statement. So when you are sitting down to get your book written, what is the purpose behind the book? And how is that purpose statement going to help you get there? So we're going to build on that purpose statement today. And just a reminder, this video series is one of 11. And so in this 11-part series that will be happening between now and the end to the middle of June, it's leading up to a workshop that I'm running on June 17th, which is called Write Your Purpose with AI. And if you would like to register for that, the link is in the description below. Okay, so let's talk about this. So here's the thing that, in addition to yesterday's conversation around needing to have a really clear purpose and why you're doing this, the next piece of this is the who you're writing for. I have been working with authors for over 10 years now, publishing in an actual publishing capacity for 10 years, a number of years before that in writing my own books. And one of the things that is consistent in both my book, Publish Your Purpose, and my book, Promote Your Purpose, both of which are behind me, the light blue and the dark blue. In both of those books, I spend a good amount of time talking about who you are writing for. There's the old marketing cliche of like the riches are in the niches. And I think there's a huge piece of that is accurate. But when it comes to talking about books and writing books, the real value is writing really, really specifically to one person. And it feels counterintuitive in a way where you're thinking about, how do I write my story? How do I tell my story? What does that look like? When we're writing for one person alone, that lands with that one person that you're writing. So when we think about, hey, I wrote this book and now I'm marketing the book, I'm promoting the book, I'm getting the book in the hands of readers, you're thinking from a standpoint of lots of people are going to be reading this book. It's going to be in the hands of a lot of people. And the reality is it's still a solo journey, right? Like if I buy your book and I'm reading your book, when I'm doing that, I'm basically reading that as a solo individual. I'm not reading that. It's not a group. Even if I'm in a book club, it's still not a group assignment. I am reading that myself. So you would ideally should be writing for one person and one person alone. I have been teaching this concept for a long time at this point. And in this conversation we're having today, it's about how are we going to use AI to kind of help us get there a little bit faster and help us think a little bit deeper. So when we think about writing for one person, the best tip I have is look at someone you know. Maybe it's a client, maybe it's a former client, maybe it's a colleague, maybe it's a friend, somebody in your life, someone that you are in some kind of community group with, whoever that person might be. It is the person that you know you are writing this book for. So one person. And what I really encourage people to do, and it sounds creepy AF, is to print out a picture of that person and put it on your laptop, on your monitor, whatever your writing routine is, grab a picture of that person. Because what's going to happen is that as you're writing, you're going to be thinking, what would Jen say about this? Or how would Jen feel about this story? Or how would Jen feel about this example? Or this structure, whatever the thing is, when you have one person that you're writing for, that one person is going to make every example that you share, every story that you share, everything it'll be easier, simply because you'll be like, well, if I phrased it this way, I don't know that she would actually understand what I'm saying. Versus, you know who you're writing for, you can be so much more clear in what you're doing. So yesterday's prompt was about our purpose and, what's the purpose of the book? And that's going to be our North Star. Today, the prompt is who are we writing for and how do we get to the deeper bottom of that? Because a lot of times we're thinking in more demographic ways. We're thinking about age, we're thinking about occupation, we're thinking about suburban versus urban, we're thinking about race, we're thinking about gender potentially, all of these things. But really, we want to kind of get to the core of what is this person struggling with? What can we do differently that will make their life a little bit easier? in regards to the transformation from our book. So I want to give you, I have my notes right here. I want to give you a prompt to put into your AI of choice. And I said yesterday, it is agnostic to the AI tool that you use. So does not matter which platform you use. I use a ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini for kind of different reasons. Claude is my primary choice. However, I've been using Gemini to be my test subject for my prompts to kind of give to you. So basically, what we want to start with is if you didn't watch yesterday's video, I highly encourage you to. You can obviously still do this without yesterday's, but it will make it a little bit easier because you have yesterday's information to bring into today's conversation. What I want you to do is grab the purpose statement that you had yesterday. So a reminder, my purpose statement was, my book helps people uncover the purpose already within them so they can stop living on autopilot and start creating a life and eventually a book rooted in meaning, alignment, and impact. That was the purpose statement that was generated from my AI without any editing yesterday. So today, what we're going to do is the first half of the prompt is going to be, my book topic is blank. I think my reader is blank. So what I want you to do is take yesterday's description that we talked about, and I want you to put that my book topic is about. So basically what you're going to say is, my book, instead of, having, let me rewind. Basically taking exactly what I just said. My book helps people uncover the purpose, ... So whatever you came up with yesterday, throw it in there. If you're watching this today and you missed yesterday's video, no big deal. So basically just use this as a moment to go to your AI of choice and just drop in, my book is about, and insert whatever your book is about. It doesn't have to be pretty. That's the beautiful thing about AI. It doesn't have to be well written. You could be writing practically in hieroglyphics in AI and it still knows what you're saying in some miraculous form. So just go drop that in there. And then you want to go into, I think my reader is. And now we're saying, I think my reader is, because we may not have real good clarity on who the reader is. I had said before, you really want to focus on someone that you know, ideally, or maybe it's even a public figure that it has the problem that your book is going to solve for. But sometimes we don't really know the clarity of that. So in my example, what I did is I put in my purpose statement, as I just read, and then I put, I think my reader is someone who has been struggling with this, but has been hitting a breaking point where they now know this is something they need to put their energy toward. That is what I'm saying I think my reader is. So I'm focusing more on the psychographic data, which in marketing terms basically means the psychology of why someone buys, why someone is taking action, why someone is going to engage with your book or your message or your speaking or whatever it is that you might be doing, versus the demographic side of things, as I was saying just a few minutes ago, which is more of kind of like the things that you might check a box for: age, race, birth month, whether you live in a city or you live in the suburbs, all of those things, that's demographic. We're not really talking about that. We're looking at the psychology of, why is the reader going to be interested in this? So I want you to, hopefully you are doing that right now. And if you are watching live or even on the replay, throw it in the comments or, send me an email. I'd love to kind of see what your AI is generating for you, because the second half of this prompt is going to be, ask me 5 questions that will get me more specific about exactly who this person is, what they're struggling with, and why they need this book right now. This is the core of the AI prompt that we're trying to get to, because as I mentioned in yesterday's video, I wrote my first book in 2011. I published it in 2012. So that was 15 years ago. What it took to write a book, construct something that made sense, really understand who you were writing for 15 years ago versus now, the process is night and day different. It is way easier now to get your book out into the world. It is way easier to really understand the root of what you're trying to accomplish and how you're going to get there versus how it once was. So the accessibility side of this is incredible. And I also still want to emphasize the ethics, the integrity, really thinking about how do we use AI as a tool, but not as a replacement for our voice. Because I think that's something that most authors or aspiring authors are really concerned about, is AI is going to replace my voice. If we're using it appropriately, if we're using it with honesty, with integrity, we don't have to worry about that. So today, in this whole workshop, all 11 of these videos is all about how do we just start to use AI to help us kind of get to the bottom of what we're trying to do. So in the spirit of giving you an example, I threw this in again to Gemini is the one that I used for this. I didn't want to put it in Claude because Claude knows me a little bit too well. So I wanted to kind of keep it a little bit more broad. So because I put in mine, I think my reader is someone who has been struggling with this, but has been hitting a breaking point where they now know this is something they need to put their energy toward. That was what I think my reader might be struggling with. This is what you get back from your AI is going to be dramatically different than mine because it's pulling specifically from the context that you've set. So mine in Gemini specifically responded saying, to help you pin down the exact psychological and emotional landscape of this reader, I need you to answer these 5 questions. This is the gold in AI because what you respond to these questions as is going to give you a really clear picture of who you're writing for. And then when you sit down at your desk, or sit down on your couch or at a coffee shop or outside, wherever you may be, you will have so much more clarity about the things that are making people tick and understand what their pain points are, that your writing is going to come out so much more effortless. Because sometimes when we start writing a book, we're a little bit guessing. And if you're an expert in your field, you've been doing this for a while, you've been working with clients, you've been working with different stakeholders. These are all things that you kind of anecdotally know, if not have direct case studies for. And AI is going to help you kind of really go deeper with that. So you can actually put to words a lot of things that maybe you intuitively already know, but you didn't even realize that you knew them. So the 5 questions mine came up with, remember, these are not going to be your 5 questions because it's pulling directly from my statement. But the 5 questions are, what does their specific breaking point look like? What are the loudest, most persistent negative thoughts or lies they're telling themselves right now? What have they already tried to do to fix this problem and why did it fail? Why is it absolutely critical that they find their purpose before they start writing their book? And finally, when they look at their day to day life right now, what is the number one thing they are most jealous of when they see other people doing it? Those are my 5 questions in response. So remember, prompt is, my book is about, insert your topic here. If you did yesterday's exercise, drop that statement in. I think my reader is, and just throw it out there. Just throw who you think your reader is. Put as much detail as you can. And then the second piece of it is, ask me these 5 questions to get really specific. So you can see in the 5 questions that I just listed off, that's really specific. So when I go in and answer those 5 questions about the breaking point and the negative thoughts and the lies and what problem does this fix, and what's this kind of what's their day-to-day life look like now versus what it could look like, that is going to get to such clarity on the who we are writing for. As I said, in my book, Publish Your Purpose, and my book, Promote Your Purpose, both of them start in the fundamental foundational pieces of the books are purpose, vision, impact, why, all of the big stuff, which sometimes feels like the step to kind of skip because it's like, oh, I kind of know what my vision is. Yes, and there's a way deeper way that you can get into that, way, way deeper. And then once we have that sorted out, which we started to sort out yesterday, then we can say, okay, who is this for? Because when it gets hard, because it will, when you know exactly who you're writing for, everything becomes so much smoother. I was talking to one of our authors yesterday who is writing a memoir, and the memoir is basically about the secrets that we keep and kind of breaking through those patterns of what causes you to keep other people's secrets, etc. And in talking to her, she was like, I wrote this for the 38-year-old version of me, and even if my book only sold a couple of copies to a 38-year-old person who's going through the same experience I was going through, then my job here is done, because she is so clear and so grounded on what the purpose of her book is. And she is so crystal clear on who that 38-year-old version of her was. So when we have that level of clarity, the rest of this process does become smoother, even when we have those ups and downs, because we're going to have the ups and downs. There's no way around it. And right now, this particular author happens to be in what I love to call as editing hell, because editing a book is not a fun process. Even if you've been through it a bunch of times before, I've written 8 books myself, published 8 books, and my book that came out in February this year, the editing process still was kind of miserable because it's just the nature of the process. But there's ways that we can get through it better and more efficiently and with a more positive attitude, because when we're looking at it, we're like, Okay, that's right. I'm writing this because I'm trying to help this person do this thing. And I know by me putting myself out there and putting my thoughts on the page and putting my content out there, that this person's going to benefit and have value from it. So that is the point of what we're doing here. Again, yesterday we focused on what the purpose is. Today we're focusing on the who, and you can keep going deeper and deeper. So I said, ask me 5 questions. Inevitably, AI is going to come back and you're going to answer those 5 questions and it's going to say, okay, give me a little more clarity on this, give me an example on this, give me something that might be contradictory here, and all of those things are going to keep on surfacing and keep on coming up. And remember, the ethics side of AI. This is you can see in this example, we're not saying like go to AI and say write me a book about my topic. That is absolutely not what this workshop is about. That's not what the series is about. That's not what the workshop on June 17th about is about. It's really how do we use AI as a thought partner to help us get there faster and help us reduce our overwhelm, because I truly think in the thousands of authors that I have taught, worked with, etc., over the last 15 years, it's the overwhelm. It's the self-doubt and the overwhelm that I think are the two things that just stop us all. There's a lot of other variables and factors, but I think those are the two highest weighted ones. So if we can kind of bypass all of that, that is ideally what we're trying to go for. So hopefully all of this has made sense so far. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about how AI can support your writing without replacing your voice. We're going to go a little bit deeper on that side because I know there's a lot of authors right now that are really, really hesitant about using AI. There's a lot of backlash around using AI from a writing standpoint. And again, this isn't to replace the writing. It's not to replace the voice. It's how do we just use this as a way to help us get there faster and help us serve the people that we ideally want to serve, just in a more intentional and a little bit quicker of a way. If this information has been helpful for you, I do have a workshop coming up on June 17th. The link is below in the registration. I will also drop the prompt that I just ran through, the prompt as well as my response to the prompt. I will also put that in the comments like I did yesterday. And if you are looking for more kind of education and resources around how to get your book written, published, marketed, wherever you might be in your author journey, you can check out authorgrowthandimpact.org. That is where we have our educational platform that really goes really deep in all of these different kind of areas of the author journey. And if you have questions, comments, anything like that, feel free to just throw them in the chat. I'm here. I am happy to help. And I am wishing you a wonderful day. I will be back on Tuesday. So Tuesday will be day 3. There are 11 days total. So Tuesday, I believe at noon, if I am not mistaken. Yes, noon, Tuesday, 5/26 at noon, I will be back so we can talk about how do we use AI and not replace our voice in the process. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you on Tuesday. Have a great week.